At the start of some videos, I'm going to include a little piano playing, usually some improv. Hope you enjoy, and see you in the reaction. Hey everyone, welcome back to another look at some Xenoblade, and this is going to be a big one, a big episode, because we're looking at the Torna battle theme, which I've had half a dozen recommendations for. It seems pretty popular. Seems like a good chance I'm going to love it. I really have no context for it other than it's from, I believe, the Torna DLC for Xenoblade 2, correct me if I'm wrong, and is probably the main battle theme, like in the field for the game, so probably something you hear a lot. And sounds like a lot of effort went into it. I did want to explore a little bit of information about the Xenoblade 2 soundtrack and the composer, just for fun. I don't know how often I'm going to do this, but I thought I might explore it. So the game's score was written by Yasunori Mitsuda, Kenji Hiramatsu, and Manami Kiyota, along with the duo of ACE, which is Tomorikudo and Hiroya Yamanaka, who I believe is the one who's also known as Chico. So they sometimes worked with Hiramatsu-san as something called ACE Plus, I believe. They sort of like formed a new unit with 3 people, as far as I could tell. Mitsuda also sort of was like a sound producer for it, charging like budgeting and musician booking, schedule management, proofread sheet music. In fact, there's a good interview somewhere here, which is where he talks about he had to check all the scores, do budget, sound checks, the sound program. He said it was an impossible amount of work for one person because the other composers didn't have that much experience actually recording with orchestras. So he had to identify issues in the written music so that people could actually play it, had to gently relay the director's request to the team, took a lot of attention, and he wrote music as well for it. Even though prior in Xenoblade 1, it seems like he didn't really want to work on much music and didn't do too much on it, but felt like he created the original Xeno sound from Xenogears, and he also worked on Xenosaga Episode 1, so he kind of like created the sound for everything and eventually came back to writing more music, but sort of stepped back from it for the original Xenoblade, just one song potentially. But yeah, he also managed a lot of stuff on 2. I actually didn't realize how much Mitsuda-san was involved with this and other games I know. Like obviously he's such a legend for Chrono Trigger, but I kind of didn't realize a lot of other stuff. I had no idea I worked with Uematsu on Front Mission Gun Hazard, the second Front Mission game, and I've actually shouted out the original Front Mission game with some of its music on one of my earlier videos because I played a bit of that and it had amazing music. I had no idea the second game they got Mitsuda and Uematsu, which is incredible. He did the music for Xenogears, for the original Mario Party, which actually has a soundtrack I really enjoyed growing up. I think this game has great music. Like, it really fits the energy of it, but it's so good. So Xenogears, it continued with Chrono Cross. Worked on some arrangements for Mega Man Legends, which is kind of a underrated gem. And the Shadow Hearts series, all these like RPGs that I'm familiar with, and I didn't realize that Mitsuda worked on them. I kind of always picture him this sort of elusive, even reclusive like composer who was mostly known for Chrono Trigger, but he's done so much. Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, like he started with the Xeno series, with Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Wille zur Macht, which I didn't realize he worked on. So much stuff, the Luminous Arc 1 and 2 and Arc Rise Fantasia, which I've heard of, great music, a bunch of these Inazuma 11 games, and then started with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, where he just wrote the ending theme Beyond the Sky, and then did a lot more after that point. But a lot of like slightly lesser known RPGs that I'm aware of, he's worked on, like a lot of kind of a bunch of different things like Stella Glow and Another Eden, Edge of Eternity, and Sea of Stars, doing music with Eric W. Brown. I had no idea. This is a game on my radar. I had no clue that Yasunori Mitsuda contributed to this, which is kind of incredible to me. But more importantly, actually Kenji Hiramatsu was the one who handled battle music and generally the more energetic music. They wanted to not ruin the image from the first Xenoblade, and as mentioned in other interviews, like Mitsuda wanted to kind of retain the vibe that he created for the Xeno series even before Xenoblade Chronicles. So probably work to direct other composers to kind of retain that mood. So it would be very interesting to go back to listen to more like Xeno Saga and Xeno Gears music, which I have heard, especially Xeno Gears has some pretty identifiable music. Was interested in potentially like releasing a soundtrack, but in one of the interviews he did talk about how wasn't sure, there's so many songs, was like confused about how to offer the soundtrack for sale. There's like hundreds of tracks. But yeah, not too much is like said about Kenji Hiramatsu, but he's worked a lot on Xenoblade, all of them 1 through 3, not on X, but yeah, and he kind of took part with the ACE duo, being called ACE Plus, and a lot of them are credited when all 3 of them worked on the tracks. So yeah, I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more, if possible, about both Mitsuda's work here and specifically Kenji Hiramatsu, who actually composed this piece. He did Battle Torna here for the Golden Country. So yeah, this is his track. It doesn't credit ACE Plus, but just Kenji. So I'm looking at Hiramatsu-san's work on this track. So that's who I want to give credit for whatever I'm going to listen to. Also just great pictures of Mitsuda-san. I just think he's amazing. And I really was glad to learn about more projects he's been a part of that I'm aware of, and I just didn't know he was involved. So a lot of respect for Mitsuda. All right, let's take a listen and see what I think. I've totally never heard this before, so check it out. And as usual, I'll probably stop after the first 30 seconds, maybe even less. Let's find out. God damn, that sounds so good. All right, so that was kind of the intro. It took maybe 15 seconds. It starts with this piano kind of ostinato that repeats the whole time. I wonder if they're going to bring it back later and be like, hey, you like got used to this in the intro, so this is something you identify. We'll bring it back for a later pattern. Yeah, they just keep that pattern going this whole time. They bring in this deep bass. Bring in the drums. I don't know what one of those sounds is in there, but yeah, brings in this kind of string sound, brings in the bass. It's got like 4 layers going on, but it keeps that piano pattern, that ostinato repeating. And yeah, I wonder if that's something they're going to use later, because it sounds like it drops that piano pattern and maybe brings in a different one. Maybe the piano starts taking the lead in terms of the variety. I'm really curious, but the sound of the recording's incredible. Like, it's such a good piano sound. It's got a lot of energy. You know, it's got this detached staccato style of the piano in this ostinato. And yeah, it just like instantly imbues it with this kind of battle energy. And I can imagine, like, you get into a battle and this starts, it's really going to set the tone quickly. Like, it's fun, it's energetic, it's not overly serious, but it really lifts things. So yeah, let's see where it goes after these first 15 seconds. Yeah, the bass is really doing a lot. Nice descending chords. Okay, I'm going to stop it here. It's going to take a long time to get through this. All right, buckle in. I better buckle in. Yeah, the bass is really like standing out a lot of the time. It's not the highest in the mix, but it's doing a lot. I really enjoy a lot of the bass line work in here. They do like one section of the piece, and then they kind of close it out with or transition with the piano doing these jazz chords that kind of like descend, and then the next time they have the piano instead do a little detailing up in the top, a little bit of filigree. So they kind of like, they get you to listen to a section, and then they kind of close it out with like you listening to see like, okay, how do they change up the pattern with the piano kind of taking the lead for a moment, which is really fun. I look forward to seeing more of what they do. I'm expecting kind of like a jazz piano solo at some point. I feel like that would be very fitting here. I'm curious if they do it. But yeah, there's a lot of great, like, very like wood bass kind of sound, like some bent notes, and it's just fun. The bass is giving a lot of energy and a lot of character. So I'm going to back up a little bit and listen to that part again. Yeah, the bass is really going off. You know what? I can't not mention this, but yeah, there's such a Chrono Trigger feel to that bass work right there. And I mean, this isn't a Mitsuda piece, and at most probably he's like encouraging keeping the Xeno sound. But I think in some way there's like a genetic link to Mitsuda's work on Chrono Trigger, even if this isn't his piece. And yeah, it just kind of reminds me a little bit of Corridors of Time, I think. Maybe I'm thinking of Secret of the Forest, but I think I'm thinking of Corridors of Time, that has that kind of bass melody, and it just reminds me of it, even if it's like a different quality of the instrument being recorded. Like when this bass goes up and has this big bent note on the wood bass, like it just sounds like Chrono Trigger to me. It does. It really does. Yeah, right there. The drums kind of slowing down. Nice. All right, we're going into just heightening the energy, going into an even more fun section. Really appreciate this, like, ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, just kind of doing this sequence, stepping up, this kind of detached staccato with this rising sequence, really doing its job to like create the feeling of like just stepping up in energy into this new section that is just like absolutely beaming, like it's so positive and exciting. And they're just sort of heightening the energy section by section. I imagine this is very fun to play the battle system with. And I wonder as well, like how it feels to play the base game and then play the DLC, especially if you played the game when it was released and then you play the DLC when it's new, and you're used to the general battle themes in the base game, and then you play this, and like the first battle you get into, I imagine, like is playing this theme, the Torna battle music. I wonder like how it contrasts the like base game's battle theme you're used to, and if it's like, oh damn, like they're really mixing it up. This is a brand new battle theme like that I'm gonna hear all the time, and it's so good. Like, I bet that's an exciting moment, to be honest, or at least I imagine it would be for me. But yeah, I love this rising sequence transition, and we're gonna go into a section that's even more energetic. So fun. Great rhythms. Amazing drum work. Great little glissandos. There's that bass again. Yeah, there's little glissandos a few times, which are really fun. They're very rhythmic. They're not so much to like sound ornate as glissandos sometimes can be, or like showy, but they're actually quite short glissandos, only a small part of the piano usually, from what I can hear in these, and they're used very quickly. Really a very rhythmic glissando, which is kind of cool. It really serves the purpose going on here. There's just all kinds of just these fast detached jazz chords just supporting things. There's a lot of layers that are primarily functioning rhythmically. I mean, they have other qualities to them. There's timbre and there's pitch to most of them, but there's a lot of layers that, as one would want in a battle theme like this, there's a lot of layers that are primarily doing rhythmic work, and a lot of them at once. The drums are doing a lot, and sometimes the drums are even setting, like it backed off and did a bit of a slower rhythm overall with like the bass drum, with a slower overall tempo, but still having quick fills in it. So it's almost like the drums themselves have two layers of rhythm. And then you have the piano, which is heavily rhythmic. Almost everything it's doing is like creating rhythmic interest. The strings, when they come in, are quite fast and rhythmic as well. And of course the bass is doing its own rhythm, its own counterpoint, and sometimes it jumps into the forefront with some more bold notes that again just keep giving me this flavor of Chrono Trigger that, you know, is probably a biased association in my head. But yeah, it's really just incredibly rhythmic, which I'm sure is a pretty obvious thing to notice, but it's so much of the motivation behind how everything's working here. It's constantly giving you rhythm to be interested in, and yeah, I do think that's like the most supportive of action in a game. It doesn't have to be. You can have tracks that support action really well. In fact, I think in the Wretched Weaponry video, with Nier Automata, I think that I talked about how sometimes a more restrained battle theme can actually be really great. It can be incredible. Like, it almost is contrasting with your energy in the game, or it gives you like the ability to approach the stimulation of the action in a way that supports your mental framework and your mental space in a different way. But then there's also, of course, the music that feels immersive, that parallels what you're doing and motivates you and supports the pace, the tempo which you're playing. And that's more this approach, you know, the more rhythmic almost the better. And this is like really going to 11 on that. Anyways, let's continue. Oh, the Chrono Trigger bass! Oh my god. You know, I'm gonna insert a clip from Chrono Trigger here. Like, it's so there. Like, come on. Like, I'm just gonna listen to it again because it's so clear to me. It's so distinctive to me. It's almost the same bass line. Yeah, and the rising sequence again. Does it go to the same place? Oh, what a great melody. And then it kind of mixes it up on the second statement of this theme. What a great theme. Like, how it's so melodic despite the staccato chords. Like, you know, you typically think of a great melody, at least, you know, generally being more legato, more connected notes, especially single notes carry a melody really well. But this is a great evidence of how to like make a really obviously great and catchy melody, even if you're not using single notes, you're using chords, and, you know, richer chords, and you're playing staccato. It just seems like it's a primarily rhythmically functioning bit of piano, but like this is how you make a great melody with that anyways. Like, you can hear the melodic shape, and you can really hear that highest treble note in the chords really defining that melody, to the point where I feel like, you know, most people you've already embodied this melody in your mind immediately the first time you hear it. It's so catchy, you know. Da 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 da. Yeah, and then it mixes up a little bit. I'm curious how much more they're going to keep using this melody because it's so distinctive. Probably shows up more throughout the rest of the track. Great classic harmonic shift. Yes, nice little breakdown. Some drum fills. not surprised we get it pulled back, but we keep that melody. Again, it's, clear, definitely worked hard on that melody because it really sings, and might as well get more use out of it. So definitely want to hear it in a more pulled back context. Although the way it's delivered through the piano remains the same here. One thing I wanted to shout out real quick, go back a little bit and catch it, one of these harmonic shifts. I'll see if I can. I was about 2:30 to go back to. Yeah, right there, I nailed it. Okay, this harmonic shift. That's like a super classic, like Japanese music, J-pop, JRPG music. We've probably, if you listen to music from JRPGs or even just Japanese music in general, you've probably heard that chord progression, that harmonic shift quite a bit. There's something about it that's like distinctive, and yet other, cultures or genres of music don't really use it that much, but they love it in this kind of context. And it just, like, to me, it screams like, game music, JRPGs, Japan, and I just really like that energy. Like, of course, it could be used in any context, but it is quite associated with me with that, and I imagine for other people too. Let me catch it one more time, back 5, and then we'll go back to 2:30. Yeah, just such a great harmonic shift. It's just really, really satisfying sounding. It's really pleasurable. It really kind of tickles your brain, but it's really used like so much in this context, not in that many others. So it was nice to hear it there. Probably hear it a lot on the soundtrack, I would imagine. I don't know if I would say that. Well, again, it's not a Mitsuda track, but it's funny. I almost want to say that Yasunori Mitsuda is somebody who doesn't use that chord progression as much as other like JRPG composers. But again, it's not his piece, and I'm sure he does still in some places. It's just funny that when I think of like mostly Chrono Trigger and what other few things I was aware he did, he has quite a different voice. He's very unique in his approach a lot of times. Pretty artistic. Anyways, let's move on. We're at sort of this stripped down section where we continue with the piano delivering that super fun melody. So we get at least in another section. We'll see if we keep getting it in more. Ooh, nice strings. Yep. Very nice. Oh, that was so fun. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And the nice little glissando to close it out. Just a lot of fun. It's really nice to hear that, like, the writing of the piano part, who knows how much of it is improvisatory. Like, you would imagine all of this is composed, but at the same time, like, that kind of a part, an instrumental piece to it like that is oftentimes pretty improvisational. Like, there's a good chance not all of this is planned. Whether it is or not, like, just great to hear like a variety of technique in it. Always very fun. If you want to go to like the nth degree on something like that, you hear like a Prokofiev piano concerto, and it's just like every section is a completely new, creative, fun way to like use the hands playing the piano. So I always appreciate that kind of variety, and there's a whole wealth of ways to do it in jazz as well. So you keep hearing different ideas. Like I mentioned, even the glissandos are like a little bit creative in that they're not quite the stereotype for how to use them. They're like brief and short and rhythmic. And here again, we get a very fast one. It's a little bit more of the keyboard going downwards, but at least I think it was downwards. I'll listen to it again. It's so fast, sometimes you can almost mix it up in your head. But yeah, we just get these descending, octaves hit twice, da-da-da-da-da-da, into a quick glissando. It's just fun because it's like it's an effect that they haven't used so far. It's 3 minutes in with a ton of piano, primarily these rhythmic chords. But we've heard some different techniques at points. And it just makes it fun. It mixes it up, keeps it creative. And that's really what you want when you hear a part like that. If that's what it's going for, you want to hear like a variety of like approaches, different techniques. Keeps it interesting, like any good piece. Anyways, go back 5, listen to it again. Yeah, it is downwards. Nice, we hit the bass in the front here. Very cool. All right, here's the jazz piano solo. Yes. I knew we'd get one. Ooh. Damn, bass is going off. Some drums. Yes. Oh, this is sick. So good. Hell yeah. Oh, that whole section was gold. And is this the part that I've had some comments talking to me a little bit about like supposedly this inspiration from watching the movie Whiplash for going for this kind of jazz sound. I'm not sure if it was applying to this piece or to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or its DLC. I forget if that was about 3, but it would make sense here because it obviously sounds like that. Like that would be an inspiration that would make sense. But just killing it, just like trading it, some like miniature solos, no extended solos here. They're not, and that kind of makes sense. I feel like it might be a little odd in a battle track if you had genuinely like a full minute long like solo from a different instrument. You get that in some game tracks, especially jazz ones, and I think something I've listened to has already kind of had that, like a minute long solo. Not that rare, but I think in the energy and you want to keep mixing it up and have the variety and the constant rhythm, I think it's a little harder to do that in a high energy battle track. So it kind of makes sense that the solo section is a section being passed between some instruments, which is not too rare, but I just think like that version makes sense in this context. To approach it that way. So we get just a moment of piano solo, like 5-10 seconds. We get some bass solo, which is awesome. We get some drum solo. We get a little bit more bass solo. It's so good. I'm going to listen to that again. Yes, bass is killing it. Whole track, really. Sounds so good. Such a cool way to use the bass here. You never really hear that. It's kind of funny. The strings just kind of come out of nowhere and go like, duh. They just are like, hey, I'm here too. Remember me? I'm the strings. Where do they do it? Right there. Duh. Oh, hell yeah. Bit of chaos. Couple more glissandos. Yes. God, what an excellent layer of sounds. I think that might be one of the first times we get that melody without the chordal structure that's being played in the right hand. It might be both hands at the same time, both playing chord patterns actually. I'm not sure. But I think this is one of the first times we hear it like in a pure like single note. Like obviously it's still octaves, but I'm kind of curious. It might be the first time we hear like this melody or theme or like at least a version of it that purely. I might just be forgetting sometimes before, but it feels like it. Also, I feel like I should maybe drop in like a bit of Nikolai Kapustin, who is one of my favorite composers, absolutely incredible. Oftentimes has like jazz piano concerto kind of work, like his Toccata Opus 8, I think it is. Absolutely killer piece and super high energy, you know, piano, jazz, big band, like in a way very similar. Kapustin is unbelievably good, and it kind of just struck me that like part of what makes me enjoy this so much is that that's some of my favorite music. It's so incredible. And I think I might drop just a little 10 seconds in here just so people can hear it, because if I can convince more people to go discover Kapustin, I will have improved some people's lives because he's a legend. Anyways, yeah, let's back up a little bit. I want to hear this, pure kind of octave melody again. See how close it is to the original melody. Well, that's single notes. This is octaves. Yeah, I would say that's more likely like a theme 2 or a second melody. There might be more than 2 so far that you would categorize as like the primary themes in this piece. But yeah, it's not the first theme or the first, bold theme. That's actually a focus. It's definitely a different one. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Again, we're getting kind of a different approach to the piano. We've got a good, like, I don't know, half dozen to a dozen different, like, significantly different approaches to piano playing, which is kind of the standard for, like, how interesting a piece of piano music is. Not that you have to have huge variety, but certain types of pieces live or die based on the variety of the playing and the technique that's employed in the composition. Other ones, like, that's not the point. It's art. You can do anything. There are pieces that are unbelievable with one or two ways that technique is used, arguably, and that all has, blurred lines between it. It's a matter of, subjectivity and analysis and creative decisions on how you hear something. But, and to be honest, music theory is pretty reverse engineered anyways. I mean, part of it's math, but a lot of it's just reverse engineered from Bach 4-part chorales. Like, what did Bach do? Oh, he did these things. Let's reverse engineer it and make up some rules. Oh, wait, Bach broke like all of these rules all the time? That's interesting. Well, we're still going to teach them. And I mean, for good reason. They're very, very useful. They're super important. But it is funny, like, you would think even the most, like, scientific side of, like, music and classical music being the music theory, and the fact that it's ultimately mathematical about pitch and interval and wavelengths and overtones and things, you would think that would mean there's a lot of objective study to it, but then in reality, a lot of it is just reverse engineered from people who are natural artists, like finding out what works and kind of making up their own, musical idiom in a very organic way. And then people later on being like, there seems to be some patterns here. Like, it really comes at it from the opposite direction of what you'd expect a lot of the time, which I think is one of the beautiful things about it. Like, it can be a science, but most of the science is actually made from the starting point of it as art. And that art is often just created organically, rather than with the science as a starting point. In terms of what the actual motivations and mental models are that are involved in the process of the composition. Anyways, just a little tangent. Let's keep going. Dun, 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 dun. Love that harmony. I could sing this in the car for real. Yes, we go up and back down. Yep, give me that bass again. Oh, that was great. I don't know if I've heard this before, how much is looping. Maybe none of it. But we get a little interesting, like, arpeggio climb. But we get the bass supporting it. We actually get the bass playing it in parallel. Not every note, but playing some of the same notes, rising with the piano there. And it just created a great effect for just 2 seconds. Really cool little bridge between, a couple bars. I want to hear that again a couple times. I'm going to see if I caught it here. If not, I'll go back 5 more. Yeah, that's so cool. Maybe like kind of diminished, but it just sounds awesome. Like, what a great little unique moment. I'm going to go back 5 again, listen to it maybe 2 more times. So good. All right. Honestly, I didn't mean to pause here. That was an accident, but I'm loving it so far. Anyways, I'm still kind of keeping an eye out right now to see if how much of this is looped from before. It's you can only remember so much of the music you're listening to as you do, and part of that is the primary psychological art of music composition, and the way it works as a temporal art form is like how much your ear latches onto and why, and what makes things catchier, for lack of a better term, and then how to utilize that catchiness in the way that you repeat certain patterns and then vary certain patterns and get people who have picked up on a pattern to appreciate and have enjoyment from knowing what to expect already, even on a first listen, and then hearing it shifted. That's like so much of the psychology around how music works. And it's interesting in game tracks, a lot of times it's like, I'll be curious if the track I'm listening to includes a loop. Sometimes they do, or simply if like it maybe has some varied sections, but there are some parts that are repeated verbatim or repeated with very little change. And it's fun to like kind of look at that process that's happening, because that's not really just an irrelevant thing of like, oh, like how good's my memory, and like am I messing up by like thinking I've heard something before or thinking I haven't but I have. In reality, that's like very important things about the way the art of music works. So it's kind of interesting to actually notice, like, oh, if I'm not sure if I've heard this section before or if it's a loop, that actually says something about how the composition is working and what subjective musical effect it's having on me. Like, for example, when it replays that da 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 da, when it replays that in anything, I know it was so catchy that I knew from the first time I heard it, like that was instantly memorized. And every time it comes up, I'm going to know if it was the same, if it was a variation on that theme, if it's used in different context. It was so catchy. Psychologically, I'm going to be prepared for it and even looking for it to come back, and it'll be very clear and enjoyable to see when it's shifted somehow, when it's utilized in a different way. Other parts, maybe because there's a lot going on and there's less of an individual focus on something that's particularly memorable, even if the overall experience is amazing, just things work different psychologically. There's a reason certain bold melodies are earworms, whether or not they're even that good or catchy. Well, they are catchy, whether or not they're that good or like high quality. You know, even sometimes a poor melody can be so bold that you can't get it out of your head. We all have earworms of terrible songs, right? Like, you know, or guilty pleasures. So like when there's parts that I'm like, like, am I messing up? Like, am I thinking this is a loop, but it's not? I'm really not sure. And I'm like looking for it, and trying to listen for it to figure out what I'm even hearing. That says something about the effect that the music's having. Not in terms of like good or bad music, but in terms of like, certain types of sections of music. It's subjective person to person, but overall there are some, ways music can sound that are more likely to be latched onto by your mind to remember and notice, versus ones that might lack a distinctiveness, particularly on a first hearing, that might end up with you searching and a little bit in this uncertain area about whether you've heard it before or not. Anyways, I accidentally paused, but I wanted to take it as an excuse to talk about something actually important about music. And this goes for life in general. A lot of times innocuous things that happen naturally, not me pausing by accident, but me being a little bit unsure if I'm hearing something I've heard before. It's a lot of times just innocuous things in life, especially innocuous things that happen when interacting with art, usually have more meaning to it than that. There's a lot you can actually delve into that actually is significant about the subjective experience. There's something more to everything. And it's a nice thing to keep in mind. Anyways, let's continue. And again, who knows? Maybe it's looping. I don't think so. I would bet that it's similar sections, but it's still, you would call it through composed. That would be the term for something that is continually composed to be different throughout, as a contrast to musical eras where repeats were primarily used. And it was also more on not the composer, but was more on the performer to vary it and to add ornamentation or mix things up on the repeats, to the point where things became actually written out with those kinds of improvisatory differences becoming part of the piece, like a Chopin nocturne or something that repeats sections, but like he's writing in what you might do that's different each time, where a little bit before that in history you would have had people who the performers know that they're here to play the repeat, but they're not going to play it exactly the same. Nobody wants to hear that. So improvisation is actually a massive part of classical music and its history, despite popular belief or knowledge. All right, let's continue, and maybe I'll listen to it to the end. Could eat my words, but let's see. Just the sound quality is amazing. Like, the clarity of all the instruments in the mix is wonderful. I got these fun little sparklies that just make it so happy. Yep, there's the glissando. Love that bass. Yep, a little doubling with the bass again. Yep, I love this. I love this on the bass. It sounds so good. So cool. Yep, I remember this all from before, but I love this part. It's so chaotic. Yeah, I think this is back to the very start. So now I guess I know where the loop point is. This goes back to the start of this track. Yep, we're gonna get the fade out here. Yeah, this definitely loops back to, 20, 30 seconds before the end is where it loops back to the beginning. All right, let me play it quite softly while I go on just a little background music while we chat about things. Yeah, anyways. Well, that was excellent. I'm not surprised. There's a lot of recommendations, and, even based on what I read about, like, the context and the composers, I knew it was going to be good. Definitely slapped. Yeah, I gotta watch the movie Whiplash sometime. Again, I'm not sure if this is what people were referring to for it being inspiration, but again, it would make sense. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of I'll throw in a clip from Chrono Trigger and from Kapustin, just for fun. People might enjoy that. But this was really excellent. I'm gonna put it on my playlist for some of the energetic stuff, along with the Cent Omnia region, the other one of the others I've listened to. But it was so good. I'm gonna swap. I'm gonna swap over. A little swouse moment, if y'all know what that is. Yeah, so I have a new little playlist thing, upgraded a little bit. We'll upgrade it a little bit over time. This is, V2 in Notion. And I think I already know where this is going, which is orchestrated energy. Okay, good, this works. So we're gonna say, I'm just gonna copy these so I can get the formatting. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And honestly, Fogbeast does not have to say this because it's only in the definitive version, so I don't actually have to specify that. Thank you to the comments who pointed that out. I know there's different formatting for this, like there's the 2 exclamation marks and the slash, like, but I'm just gonna do it like this. In fact, even this, like, I know what this is. There's different ways you could write it. I don't know how important it is to, like, have a certain string there. People seem to refer to it different ways. But yeah, it's absolutely going in this playlist. Funnily enough, all 3 tracks I've done from Xenoblade. I've done one from 1, 2, and 3, and they're all under orchestrated energy. So you know what? I think that means it's the perfect time to listen to something that's a totally different vibe. All these are very energetic, very, like, intense, active JRPG music, at least from what I remember. Great to support action, sometimes jazz elements. less in Cent Omnia, I think, the jazz, but maybe. I haven't gone back and listened to it yet, but I will when I'm actually going to make all these playlists, and they are going to be available on YouTube, and you all can listen to the playlist that we come up with together from my favorites from the streams. I would say, from what I can remember, I actually think that I like the other 2 tracks even more than the Battle Torna track. That might be an unpopular opinion, I'm not sure, but I think... Also, is this? Yeah, that was bolded but incorrectly. I think I actually like the Cent Omnia region day and night. Oh, I didn't mark this. I see. Okay, so the night one's up here in Beautiful Tranquility. This is day. Yeah, I think I actually like the Cent Omnia regions and Fog Beast a little bit more. They're all fantastic, but maybe somebody will find that interesting, that my favorites actually so far have been the other 2. And this I would put just after those, but it's really good and easily good enough to go on this playlist. Super cool. And yeah, I look forward to more, and I have a lot of recommendations for sure for Xenoblade. In fact, I think if you want to see, like, this is what my suggestions list looks like right now. You can see all the purple for Xenoblade, at least far as I've updated it. So probably gonna have to make a system soon for like priority of suggestions, but I don't feel comfortable like monetizing anything until I've been doing this for at least a few months. So we're still, you know, testing the waters, and I really appreciate all the suggestions. It's awesome. I actually have a thing that tells me how many, so you can see I have 5 listed for the Torna battle. Anyways, yeah, I know I already have a lot of other Xenoblade recommendations, but please give me some for stuff that's actually like a total contrast, since all 3 of these have been actually, they make up the entirety of the Orchestrated Energy playlist, which clearly these soundtracks are fantastic at. But yeah, I'd love to see something that, in fact, if you think there's Xenoblade tracks that might specifically fit one of these other playlists, I'm really curious what you would think if somebody like looks at these playlists and goes like, oh, I know a track from Xenoblade that I think, based on the other tracks in the list, sounds really similar and would fit that vibe. I would be really curious. Also, to be fair, not all the Xenoblade tracks have been under here, because yeah, we do have the night from Cent Omnia region, and probably a lot of the night tracks are going to be in a different vibe. Yeah, so if you watch this long and you're still listening to me yap, I really appreciate you, and hit me with those suggestions. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope some of that was interesting. Just kind of, you know, let my stream of consciousness come out about music. That's really what this entire channel is about. It's just an excuse for me to talk about music, because it's something I absolutely love doing, and I have a lot to say. Yeah, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the little piano clips I'm going to add at the start of my videos, because I think they're cool. I'm going to keep them short, and hopefully it doesn't drive too many people away. Yeah, until next time, until the next Xenoblade, I will see you all soon. Peace out.